in the live comment section here and send everybody across. So let me go into the new one and let me set up. Oh, here we go. It's coming through now, people. Very, very, very sorry, ladies and gentlemen. We went live 3 or 4 minutes ago and it wasn't being pulled through. I think you guys are seeing it now. Let me know in the comment section if we're live. But what a game. What a game. What 2 games we witnessed tonight in the Champions League. A bad evening in the end. A bad evening in the end for Aston Villa. They go out, but it was a brave, brave performance. The Dortmund Barca game we're going to break down as well. But overall, I said at the top, you guys didn't see it because the video went a bit weird when we went live. But what a Champions League campaign we are being dished up this year. From the league phase, the brilliant knockout stages, the ebb and flow of the games, the shock results, the attacking football. It's been a drab Premier League season by and large, but the Champions League is making up for it tenfold. So very sorry about the start of the video. It may seem a little bit different from no intro or anything like that. YouTube just went a little bit weird and a bit crazy, but it seems to have sorted itself out now, which is great to see. Yes, it was 3-1 Dortmund. I didn't update the overlay, but we'll sort that out in a minute. That isn't even that important. Hit the like button. Make sure you are subscribing. Make sure you've got the bell notification buttons turned on as well. Get that done right now, people. I feel a bit gutted the games are over. How do you feel? Because genuinely, I didn't want those games to end. Barcelona did. PSG did. But I didn't want those games to end. And the Aston Villa game, which is where I'm personally going to start tonight, it was a strange one for me. We've all got to hold our hands up and take our L's in terms of questions that we ask or things that we say. And I'll give you an example. I thought it was a mistake from Unai Emery to start Marcus Rashford as an example tonight. I tweeted just at kickoff because I've been out running. I hadn't seen the starting lineups, and I saw that Marcus Rashford was in the starting 11. And Rashford's done well so far at Aston Villa, but I felt that Ollie Watkins should have been in the team. That was my personal feeling. That was my gut reaction, that he should have started tonight. And in that first half, I thought Marcus Rashford was dreadful. And I thought that Unai Emery had got it wrong. Like he did with his substitutions last week, I thought Unai Emery had got it wrong. Rashford, for me, has been, by and large, at Villa, I felt better against the tougher teams when he's come on from that bench, when he's had that energy in his legs against the tired players. And I thought that was a mistake. And then the first half plays out, and Aston Villa, I'll tell you what they got undone by Aston Villa. I'll tell you what they got undone by tonight. When people talk about Champions League heritage, I often feel it's such a broad statement. Everyone views that word differently. When I think about Champions League heritage, you saw it in action tonight with Aston Villa. Because that team, as a collective, the fan base as well, and a lot of those individual players haven't been in the Champions League too regularly, or as that collective and as a unit and as a group, as a club, they haven't been in the Champions League for decades. There's a few players. You've got Asensio and Rashford have played in the Champions League. Matson got to a final last year as an example. I'm sure Pau Torres has played in it before. There is experience in the tournament, but a large proportion of that squad hasn't played in the Champions League regularly. The deep knockout stages, the pressure that comes with it, the anxiety and the ebb and flow of the game. As a collective, it's the first time. The fan base haven't experienced it for a generation. And I felt the opening 20 minutes, and Rashford's poor performance kind of epitomized this a little bit in the first half. They overcommitted. When Rashford lost the ball on the attack, I think it was Kamara pressed when he should have sat back a little bit. Cash was caught out of position because he joined the attack and couldn't get back. Then Luka Digne isn't tracking the run of Hakimi, who scores the opening goal. I thought all round, it was poor from Rashford, poor pressing, and then players not concentrating. I felt they got caught up in the moment, the euphoria from the crowd, the adrenaline. And sometimes you need to be very cautious when you're down like they were. You couldn't afford no mistakes, and that cost them. The second goal was very similar. And suddenly it's 2-0, it's 5-1, and they're dead and buried. And if we're being honest, nearly every single attack broke down when it came to Marcus Rashford. A bad touch. He got put through on goal, and a touch took it into the path of Marquinhos, who wins the ball. Then he had a chance to run at the centre-back, whose name now eludes me. And he didn't take him on. He was drifting out to the left, waiting for support in the middle. And I'm screaming, Rashford, what's wrong with you? You have got the ability to take that man on, and he wouldn't do it. And I sat there at half-time. They got a goal back, a well-worked goal, scored. And I just thought, you know what, Unai Emery, you start this game with Ollie Watkins, and those chances and those opportunities where Rashford found himself with the ball, you could have scored first. You may have got a couple of goals in the first half, and the game would be different. 20 minutes into the second half, I'm sitting there and I'm eating humble pie. I've got egg on my face. Rashford comes out like a man possessed. It's like he took a shot of, what's that thing called from the boys? That V serum thing, whatever it's called. It's like he took a shot of that. And he came out and his touch was on point. He was running quickly. And PSG were then getting cooked, annihilated, obliterated. Every single ball, Villa are winning. They're giving them no respect. But they're doing it in what they should have done in the first half. It was concise. It was considered. They weren't overcommitting. And the first goal I thought was excellent. John McGinn in the second half, running with the ball. No one closes him down. He takes a brilliant shot, has a little deflection, and it curls in. And you think, oh, hang on, here we go. And then Marcus Rashford did, for the first time in the game, what he should have done the whole match. Pick the ball up on the left-hand side, drives at PSG, inside, outside, gets off a shot. And Donnarumma, by the way, without Donnarumma tonight, PSG are out. Great save from Rashford. There's the header from Yuri Tillemans. There was the one-on-one from Asensio as well. And Konsa should have been scoring from a header. They had their chances. But Rashford hits that shot and it's saved. Then from the corner, what we saw from Marcus Rashford, I've seen him do this as an 18-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 20. Saw him do it a couple of seasons ago to Barcelona in the Europa League. This is when he's at his best. This is when he's a 60, 70, 80 million pound player. He twines up PSG, cuts it back to Konsa, and it's game on. It is game on. PSG are struggling. They can't breathe. Kvaratskhelia is not in the game. Dembele looks like the old Dembele, not what we've seen this season. The midfield with their technical ability and their brilliance, they couldn't get near Villa. Then, as I mentioned, Donnarumma pulls off save after save after save. They make some good substitutions, I think, to begin with. I felt the first lot of substitutions, I thought Asensio coming on and Ramsey coming on was a good idea, although I thought Onana had a good game. And they maintained that pressure. They got those chances, Asensio being one of them. But then I felt a big mistake was made. Listen, they've missed chances up until that point. That Konsa header as well, that goes in, I think, if he makes contact. And then Unai Emery makes his first big mistake of the game. His genuine first big mistake. He takes Rashford off. The man that is cooking. At the end of the day, there was 15 minutes left. If you're going to bring on Ollie Watkins, maybe you look to take off a midfield player, mate, like Kamara, and just say, we're going to go for it. We're going to go for it. You know, I'm sure that, Rodgers could help fill in as he could have done something where you take off a defensive-minded player and you bring on Ollie Watkins. At that point, you have to read the game. If you conceded one more goal, you were going out. But you ended up, I felt Unai Emery killed the momentum at that point. He really did. But in the cold, hard light of day, look, we'll get onto PSG in a moment. Aston Villa should be very proud of their Champions League exploits. Nobody imagined they would get this far. Nobody thought they'd get out the league phase, let alone they made top 8, I think. They did brilliantly. They've done very well to get through to this stage. And PSG are one of the favourites, and they really gave them a run for their money. And if we're being honest, what really cost Aston Villa, yes, we can look at the Unai Emery substitute of Rashford. Maybe you should have kept him on. Maybe I wasn't wrong. Maybe you should have started Watkins and Rashford coming on as an impact sub would have helped. Maybe if Rashford comes on after 55 minutes and does what he did in the beginning of the second half, they win tonight. But that all being said, in this tie, it was the last 2 minutes in Paris where they conceded the third goal. And it was the naivety in the first 20 minutes tonight. And that, when people say, Terry, What does Champions League heritage mean? I can't speak for anybody else, but that is what I speak about. It's the experience and it's the know-how. And a big group in that heritage, that experience, is the fans. Fans have got to know how to handle that. What I will say tonight is, watching both these games, there'll be a few Arsenal fans tonight whose bums are starting to sweat a little bit. I'm telling you, because the fact that those comebacks nearly happened was crazy. And I really wanted Villa to do it as well, because I felt if Villa would have come back and gone through, you could probably put that down as outside of finals, because nothing will touch Man United in 99. Nothing will touch Istanbul and Liverpool because it's the final. But I think it would have become the best comeback ever in knockout stage history for me, because although Liverpool were down and out, they were at Anfield and they've got all the experience and the quality. It was the fact they were 5-1 down with like 40 minutes to go. It would have been great, but it wasn't to be tonight. So there we go. In terms of Barcelona, before I go to your super chats, I'm going to say this. Look, I actually felt, Dortmund tonight were very, very, very good indeed. They really, really were good tonight, and I don't think anybody can deny that, if I'm being honest. I thought Dortmund were phenomenal this evening. Barcelona deserves to go through. They scored 5 goals versus 3 over the 2 legs. But what I saw with Barcelona tonight is 2 things. One positive, one maybe a negative. The first thing I saw is that they are not invincible. They're not invincible. Similarly with PSG, and we'll get onto that conversation about the 2 clubs with KJ and Husam when they come out soon. They're not invincible. They can be got at. They can concede goals. At the same time, what I liked about Barcelona tonight, and maybe their fans won't agree with me, but I felt they showed a maturity, because they were sometimes in football. And I think that the social media era, coupled with a handful of teams, because of the Pep influence and the domination of the ball, I feel like we've been a little bit scarred. And I use scarred as the right word, where the younger generation have grown up watching the best teams barely lose possession, barely concede chances, and not really go through too much adversity in games. I grew up in a generation where I think European football was at a very high level between the 90s and sort of 2013, 2014. And I'm talking when I grew up. It was still very good after that, but when I was growing up. And when you got to the quarterfinal stage of Champions Leagues, there was always favourites and there was always an underdog. But teams always got chances. It was only really from Pep's Barca team onwards that every year there was a team or two that were just almost invincible. And as great as they were to watch, it would kill a lot of the spectacles. What we've seen 2 seasons running in the Champions League, in the quarterfinals, and I hope the semi-finals are the same, is real jeopardy, real ebb and flow. One team looks like it's going through, another team scores a goal or 2, and it sets the cat amongst the pigeons. And listen, it can be because the quality's got lower. It can be because the quality's got better. I'm not going to have that debate. I don't care about that conversation tonight. From an entertainment perspective, it's amazing. And when teams concede chances, no matter how good they are, it's normal. And I do feel like Barca showed a maturity tonight to ride through that adversity, to come out on top. And they should be proud of that themselves. Although they've lost 3-1, this is how knockout football has been for a long time. And I'm glad we're kind of getting it back. I feel like we lost it for a few years where it came a little bit predictable. The usual suspects were always winning. There was very little jeopardy. I like it. I really, really do like it a lot. There's some real top quality stuff there. So well done to Barca. Well done to PSG for going through, and congrats to both Dortmund and Villa for not rolling over, for not having their bellies tickled and fighting until the very end. It's brilliant, brilliant to see. It really, really is. Before I bring the boys out, a few super chats here. After watching both games, nobody should fear Barcelona and PSG. And I see this is where I think you're going too far, Alberto Ray. Beautiful picture, by the way, my friend. But this is where I think you're going too far. Is of course there should be an element of fear. There should be an element of worry and concern. That type of anxiety is good for you in life. And I'll give you an example. You should have a little anxious feeling when you go to cross a busy road. Because if you're not concerned, you might get knocked over. You need to have a bit of, and we're all bloody anxious about it at some level, because you look, don't you? You look, I'm going to make sure I don't get hit by a car. It's important in life to have a little fear, to have a little anxiety, and to respect your opponent. What I would say, okay, and where I agree with the second part, is Inter Milan and Arsenal defensively this Champions League campaign have looked the two teams that are hardest to break down and the hardest to beat. And in knockout football, the team that has the best defense, as long as they can score goals, which both Inter and Arsenal can, they tend to have a great chance of winning it. But let's just say the four favourites, well, two have made it now. If Inter and Arsenal are the favourites right now to go through the next round, do go through, the semi-finals are such an interesting dichotomy, and I'm excited about it indeed. Exciting games. Defensively, both teams were open. I agree. A big difference. Defending was bad, both teams. Yeah, there was some poor defending, but that's also what happens when teams overload against you, when teams force you into mistakes almost. They really, really do. And you think about like Aston Villa's goals. John McGinn's first, like the second goal, John McGinn's, they backed off a little bit, but it was a wonder strike. The same as Dewey's in the first leg. There's nothing you can do about that. You can't really defend against it. But then Rashford's only happened not because of bad defending. Rashford absolutely cooked two players. And you need that in football. If you can beat a man and then run into the space, you broke the line without passing it. And it drags everybody out of position trying to recover that situation. Brilliant football. Rashford played really good today, especially in the second half. I would reword that to Rashford played really well in the second half today. And that Rashford in the second half is an £80 million player. Rashford in the first half is going to the championship. He just needs to get that consistency back. These two matches tell me we're in for a treat tomorrow. Listen, if tomorrow is as nail-biting, as gut-wrenching, and as entertaining as we witnessed tonight, we as football fans are in for a beautiful, a delightful treat. We really, really are. Two teams who won the first leg lost today. We will see tomorrow, but respect for Aston Villa who tried. Well, for me, the meme that's going through my head, and although the reasons for the meme weren't very nice, I'm just seeing that. I just keep seeing that Thierry Henry face, and no Arsenal fan is going to admit this, but there was a part of them during that game that went, "Oh my God," there was, and there is. There always is, because it gets you thinking. Equally, if Arsenal were 2-0, 3-0 down, and they were witnessing these potential comebacks, they'd be going, oh, we could do that tomorrow. It's how football fans' minds work. Thank you, Luke, for encouraging the like button to be hit, my friend. I really do appreciate that, brother. Don't know how to feel. Yeah, look. Who do you support? Is the question I would ask about how do you feel? Both losing teams set a precedent for Real Madrid tomorrow. Arsenal better be careful, or the remontada may be on for Madrid. But what excitement. Listen, they're going to have to. I think what tonight showed is I don't think Arsenal can just sit in. I think Arsenal have got to go and score. Had Aston Villa, by the way, defended better in the first half and gone in at 0-0 or 1-0 and then come out like a freight train. And I always feel in knockout football, and maybe a little bit different for Dortmund tonight because there's a 4-goal difference. But when it's 2 goals, you don't need to start like a freight train and leave yourself exposed. The worst thing that Real Madrid can do tomorrow is come out like a madman, leave themselves exposed and not score. Because it's likely Arsenal break into that space and put one past them, and then it's essentially over. Even if they have a flurry in the second half, you're better off starting a little bit more reserved, waiting for opportunities to spring into the attack. And I'm very, very intrigued by tomorrow's game. A standing ovation for Villa. Just what if that header went in? What a game! Over to the 2 games deserve to go. Over the 2 games, teams deserve to go through. Feel bad for Villa fans. And you know what I liked about the standing ovation? Not every element of success is lifting the trophy. That football club was relegated 5-6 years ago, and it put together a plan and a process, and they brought new people into the football club, and they've been working back to get try to get Aston Villa that once were at the pinnacle of the game. They've been working hard to get back there. They've had some bumps in the road, some bad signings here, terrible manager appointment there, but they're getting it right. And they did themselves proud for their first Champions League campaign in decades to get to a quarterfinal, to push a brilliant team like PSG to the brink in that way. That will instill them with a confidence going into next season. So whenever I hear fans go, there's no point being in the Champions League because I don't think we can win it this season, that for me is a loser's mentality and tells me that two things, either a loser's mentality or a liar. The liar understands about progression and how you might miss out on X, you might miss out on Y, but you land Z. And as someone who came from a sales background, there was loads of contracts I went for that I didn't get, but you learn from all of them. You learn from the feedback, what went wrong, why they didn't accept your bid, and you go on to the next one and you make it a success. But without those failures in the beginning, I don't think I'd ever have got to the level that I did. Those failures the failures are part of winning. And the other side of it are people that have a loser mentality, that don't understand that you have to break eggs to make an omelette. So Aston Villa's season, yes, they didn't lift the trophy, which they would have loved to have done, but they have been successful. They have progressed and they will have learned. And as long as the investment is good in the summer, and who knows what they're going to do in these last 6 games now, because they'll have the bug for it as a group, they could very well finish inside the top 5. There is a genuine, strong possibility that they could do that. And if they land a Champions League spot, they could do even better next season with the money coming in and more signing. So fair play to them. They deserve, their fans were absolutely right to do that standing ovation, because they're not Real Madrid, who don't need to do that because of where they're at. They're in a very different position in their history. Absolutely spots on indeed. Why did he take Rashford off? Yeah, it felt like a weird one. It did feel like a weird one to me. But they do have a big league game at the weekend. So maybe it was to do with that. Do you know what's really throwing me off? The timer on my StreamYard says 25 minutes, but you guys were on 22 minutes because it was 3 minutes of me sitting here without it putting through. So I'm going to bring the panel out now. We've got KJ and we've got Husam on the show. Welcome, gentlemen. Oh, what a game. Both games, brilliant.
This is football. This is the Champions League. And anyone, who was complaining about the format, oh, what is this league system? Playoffs, oh, it's so woke. Hush your mouth, boys. Hush. This is fantastic. And I hope next year we get the same kind of thrill and excitement that we've got this year, because it just shows that sometimes change is good. Change is good. And without this change, we may not have seen the likes of Aston Villa go as far as they did. You know, you may not see the likes of Dortmund going toe-to-toe with Barcelona in the way that they have. They've had a poor year in their league this year. And it just goes to show that this change is good. I'm looking forward to this change. Give it some more. And yeah, overall, what a night of football. And I gotta give it to the Brummy boys. The PSG were in my city. They came to the gaff and still got served up. Aston Villa did so well. And you know what's funny? The only reason why they didn't go into extra time is because, just like Man United, they have a goalkeeper that like to chat and send sublims with hats and all that, ends up doing foolishness on the pitch. Besides that mistake from Martinez, you got to look at that Villa performance and say it's top notch. And this game could have been an all-time Champions League classic if they got that goal in the end. They didn't do it in the end. The experience wasn't there across 2 legs, which Villa will have to go look at and see if they get into Champions League next year, how they can correct that. But overall, it was a brilliant night. It was a brilliant night, and big up to my city for repping the England very well.
Yeah, no, they certainly did. Sam, what's wrong with you?
I was mad at Unai Emery because he took Rashford off because he was cooking all game long. I have no idea why he done that, to be honest with you. Because it just didn't deserve him coming off. Even if you want to bring on Ollie Watkins, have a front line of Watkins, Rashford, and Asensio all together. I think Villa today absolutely cooked, and they're very unlucky. They're very unlucky to not go through today. They were 1 goal away. I just wish he kept Rashford on, because Rashford was cooking literally second half or not, or all game, whatever, tomato pointers he cooked. And he should have stayed on the pitch. And, I think Unai Emery maybe didn't use the momentum properly. The Villa players will be absolutely livid over the fact that, they conceded that silly goal away in Paris as well towards the end, like kind of didn't help their situation. But yeah, it's just Villa had an opportunity today to make history and get to the semi-final for the first time in like however long. And I think they were capable of doing that. And, I just think the momentum died when Rashford came off. It almost became like he was their outlet. He was their difference maker. Anyone that leaves both of you guys a satanic club, obviously works really well after he leaves it. So
based on that, please don't ever ask the question again on the Football Terrace. Well, how can you sell him? Because you can't get any money for him because he's rubbish. Based on what you've just said, like, we can sell all our bad players. Oh, good. I'm just glad. But you'll back me when people say that because it's stupid. Then you are right. But do you think Rashford's situation was weird tonight, Husam? In the sense of, I agree with you. He shouldn't have been taken off, but I also think he shouldn't have started. I felt like that first half he also cost Villa. Partly in the goal, but there was other people that made mistakes as well. But he had 2 or 3 really good opportunities, and he just fluffed these lines. I always felt that bringing him on in the second half against tired legs may have been the best option anyway. And this way round, as soon as he started cooking, he fucking took him off.
Yeah, but
that's why, like, the substitutions. I remember, like, even last week when we had the Villa fan on, he was talking about the substitutions, and I was just like, this week is the week where I actually think the substitutions cost Villa, because it just made no sense. Even if like, oh, he's tired or whatever it is, 15 minutes, all you need. Rashford, Watkins, Asensio, let's go. If you're so insistent on bringing on Watkins, no problem. But keep Rashford on, because here's the thing that Rashford made the difference on. Not just like, overall play and stuff, creatively as well. Because the ball he put in for Konsa, I have no idea how Konsa just missed that header. Like, he's a centre back who had a finish like a striker, but the one thing that you expect from centre backs is the ability to head the football, and he just put it into a dangerous position right there. Massive credit I have to say today, because this is the reason why PSG are still going through it. Donnarumma, this guy once again decided to become the reincarnation of Gordon Banks. Like, it just makes no sense. I have no idea. Two games in a row in England, in a like must-win game where Donnarumma just turns on like this unbelievable performance. The save he had from the header. Oh my God. Oh, that's gonna be on Champions League like commercials for the next 15 years. That save.
You gotta love those ones when it's behind him as well, and they scoop it out and goalkeepers scoop it out like that in a crucial game. Love that. And you know what? To what you said about Rashford should be coming on from the bench. The problem is, do we know if again the Rashford that was cooking would that come straight off the bench? Rashford just seems to be now a guy that potentially needs that an hour to kick in. And
maybe he needed that momentum in the first half to cook in the second.
And we all know Marcus Rashford is the epitome of a confidence player. As soon as McGinn got that goal in, you saw Rashford come alive. There's moments in the first half where he should have took shots first time and trying to take touches. He couldn't get past players. But as soon as the confidence in the team was there, he came alive, taking shots, doing up. Listen, what he did in that right on that corner against some top defenders and some top players, anyone calling him crap or Trashford is wrong. Because if that was Jadon Sancho last year against PSG, you're all singing, "Oh, my baller! What a baller!" Oh,
do you know what it is for me?
I saw you start that message about coping. I knew as soon as Gilno mentioned that you were gonna start it. I just knew it.
Yeah, I mean,
they're not coping, you guys. They're saying that Rashford should have stayed on. I'm saying the same thing as someone who's not a Man United fan. And I don't think he would thrive like this at United again because of pressure and expectations. It's just not work.
And even the pressure, this is the problem with a lot of Man United fans. I think we live in this era of football. We all saw, that's why they deleted it off socials. We all saw what Thierry Henry and Carragher tried to do last night to Lenny Yoro, the looking thing. We see the mainstream media do it. A lot of fans online try and do it. Everything is a shock reaction. Now, we all will make jokes. We will all make jokes. We will all, and this, and you know, it's maybe making a joke as well, right? Because there's laughing emojis, so I'll take that into consideration. We all might make a joke. Oh, we should have kept him, shouldn't we? But when you try and have real, I do see a lot of people behaving seriously online about this. Rashford's time at Man United was over, not because he's a crap player. And this is the thing: you all get suckered in by the flux reds, the false reds, the fake reds. Oh, I always knew Rashford was crap. It has nothing to do with Rashford always being crap. Rashford, like thousands of players before him, had just come to the end of his lifespan at a particular football club, and a change is as good as a rest. Do people not understand how rare Ryan Giggs's, Steven Gerrard's, John Terry's, etc. are? They may have a loan in their younger years, some of these players, but I don't think people realize, gents, how rare one club players are. One, to stay at the high, especially the big clubs, stay on the highest level forever. Two, staying motivated in the same surroundings, the same everything. It's hard. And I'm not shocked, because it's all about, ironically, shock value online. Most of the mainstream media will be pushing in the morning. Do you think United regret it? No, I don't, because I don't think what we're seeing from Rashford at Villa would have happened at Manchester United for one reason or another. The same as, do I think Scott McTominay would have been putting in midfield performances this year that would be pushing us into a title race? No.
But this is how you know people are just going on agenda and just chatting was. Because we didn't even mention Rashford in context to Man United.
Yeah.
We didn't even mention Rashford said, oh, well, this is why he's worth £600 million, and that's what we should be getting for him. We just said Rashford had a good game. He shouldn't be taken off. He did so. He was very influential in the game, and all of a sudden it's
you don't know what makes this message funnier. Jill knows a Chelsea fan who wants Garnacho at Chelsea.
Thank you, minute.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, and I said it when he left, Rashford, and I'll say it again now. I want him to do well. I want him to succeed. I don't want him to hurt my club. That may happen one day, but I want him to do well. There's no animosity towards him. I feel that him moving on is the right thing for both parties, and you know, he wasn't the problem at Manchester United. Man United weren't directly holding him back. He had many a great season for us, many a brilliant performance. But our situation, we are where we are, and we need to rebuild everything. He's where he is, and he can't wait. He can't wait even for us to get back to that top level. I think it's right for him to move on. Fair play. He was excellent in that second half tonight. You mentioned Donnarumma as well a minute ago, Husam, and
what a performance!
The performance from Donnarumma was just absolutely out of this world. It truly was out of this world tonight. And the save from the header you gents have already mentioned, so that's one of them. The one-on-one against Asensio to stop their own player coming back to haunt him. The save from Rashford as well from I know they scored straight from the corner, but the effort from him to save Rashford's top corner shot was just sublime. And you have to think that the two of the three goals that went in tonight had to take big deflections to even beat him. He put in an absolute all-time performance. And you mentioned that clawing the ball out. It's one of those saves from Champions League that will go down in Champions League history, I'm sure, because I think if that goes in and it goes 5-5, I think PSG go out. I think PSG go out from that point, because the momentum, I feel, would have just carried Aston Villa over the line, really. But yeah, he had a phenomenal performance on every single level. The man of the match, there's no doubt about it at all.
I think he's been the best keeper in the Champions League so far. That's not an exaggeration. Like, if I'm doing a team of the competition, I'm putting Donnarumma as the keeper. I'm sorry. He's done too much in these two knockout, like, high caliber games for me to ignore it.
But the thing is, Donnarumma, though, we know this about him. He rises up to the occasion. He's similar to Courtois in that sense, where when the team is down and they need him to be the final defense, he's there to do that. And that's the brilliance of him.
This is what great players do. You know, we had this conversation last week, Husam, and you think about that Champions League campaign that Steven Gerrard had, where you went on to win it in Istanbul. It's those. This is why I always talk about the influence people have on winning trophies. I always think back to 1999, and there was two players in the semi-final that both got booked in Paul Scholes and Roy Keane. And if people care to go back and watch that, it's hard to get the whole game. You'd have to buy it probably off Man United. But I think you can go onto YouTube, and TNT Sports have put up extended highlights that last about 30 minutes. So you get a good look at the game. And it was just the level of performance away in Turin as an example. You know, I'm sure you'll go back as a Liverpool fan and look back at the previous one where you went on to win it. That's where legacy is built. Donnarumma is a good goalkeeper all year round, but it's how you do in the biggest games at the biggest moments, which is why when it comes to ranking football players, when people say who's the top 10 ever, the top this ever, the top that, tonight's, when I say that the trophies are influential and winning, it's performances like Donnarumma put in tonight, where if they go on to win it PSG, this lifts him up a level. You might be able to find a keeper who, this keeper's got 3% better shot save ratio. This keeper got more clean sheets. But did they have those Champions League performances, those FA Cup or whatever? I don't even know what the League Cup, the FA Cup's called in France off the top of my head. But the FA Cup, did he do it? That's the one, Coupe de France. Did he do it in the title running? And the answer is yes, by the way. He has been doing this over there as well. So for me, this is why when people say trophies don't matter when looking at players, tonight, if they go on to win it, these performances from Donnarumma are the epitome of what I'm talking about. It isn't having a winner's medal because no one thinks Jonathan Greening or Brewster are world-class because they've got Champions League winners' medals. That's not the argument at all. It's doing it in these moments. And if you're a goalkeeper, for instance, the same as I've said about the same reason why I've said I don't put Harry Kane in my top 10 Premier League strikers is we barely saw Harry Kane play in these games, let alone deliver in them. And if he hasn't, I look at strikers that have delivered in this. It can't, if you just take it away from the Prem, you look at Champions League. Harry Kane as a goal scorer is up there with most of the strikers that have played it in the last 20 years. He can't come anywhere near the top 20 because look how many of them have delivered in these games and gone on to win it. It's such an important thing. So well done to Donnarumma tonight. He was great. A few comments here. First one from Staffy. It says Villa's momentum died when Watkins came on, but this is who Arteta outers wanted him sacked for not signing in January.
Yeah, listen, Ollie Watkins, he's a very good player on his day. Obviously, we saw what he did for England. I mean, he's done it for Villa many, many times. And maybe if he was brought on with Rashford still on the pitch, with Asensio and Morgan Rogers, he might have be able to do something. But the Arteta hours they're just finding any excuses to go at the manager. And we all know Ollie Watkins weren't worth the 100 million, the 80 million that they're being quoted in January. So yeah, let's just be honest here. Ollie Watkins, good player, not 100 million, especially not in January. Would he actually be the striker that pushes Arsenal over the line to become champions? I don't think so.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah. I mean, Rashford's essentially replaced him now. Rashford's been starting these big games in the last few weeks, not Ollie Watkins. So what is interesting about what they tried to charge for Ollie Watkins is that Rashford's displaced him, which is interesting. And Rashford might not even stay at the club. So, certainly an interesting one indeed. Rashford,
but still, Arsenal would have done a lot better with Ollie Watkins in there.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Ollie Watkins coming on was why the game fell off. I think it was taking Rashford off. I think
it was taking Rashford off. That's the thing that killed
it. Because again, to Staffy's
and point, John McGinn, because we have to give him credit as well.
Right. Yeah, and I know Staffy's obviously having a dig at the Arteta outers about this, but let's not forget Watkins came on in the previous game in the league and scored an absolutely fantastic goal to help them get those 3 points. But I think if you keep Rashford on, maybe I think you take Kamara off for Ollie Watkins, move Rodgers a little more central, not into a DM role, but a bit more central to cover those spaces if you've got to run back. You keep Rashford on the left. I don't know who else came on.
Ramsey came on.
Ramsey. So work it out. Move. Someone goes on the right hand side. Doesn't really matter who. Just not Rashford because he's cooking on the left, and you keep that. You add that extra attacking player, and maybe they create another chance or two. But yeah, I don't think it's because Watkins came on. I think it's more because Rashford came off. AJ here says, "Good evening. Good evening. Fuck this up. Why remove Rashford when Rodgers was having a stink?" So I didn't think Rodgers was having a stinker. I thought he was doing some really good stuff.
It wasn't peak Rodgers that we've seen recently, especially in the Premier League and last game where he got his goal. But yeah, like he wasn't amazing. But even still, he is a game changer. Morgan
Rogers was so shit today. Honestly, I was so disappointed in
I
his
didn't think he
performance.
was.
Like,
yeah, I think he
in
was
front
average.
of goal today, so many wrong decisions he made. You know, speaking of that first half, I actually thought he had so many moments, Terry. He just did not cook at all. You know,
Well, maybe you did take him off, but he has been a match winner all season, and I think sometimes Man United do this sometimes where you go, well, Bruno maybe it could have come off. But then you look around the team, if Bruno comes off, go, well, how many match winners are left on the pitch? And there are certain players that stay on because they're match winners. And I think that Rodgers is a match winner. I just don't think you take off anyone that could win you the game. I think you take off a DM that's very unlikely to win you the game and get your attackers on, because what have you got to lose with 15 minutes to go? You could create some balance. But there we go. KJ, you guys dropped figures like Watkins was quoted for 40 million in January, not 100 million.
He wasn't quoted for 140 million. Arsenal bid apparently 40 million, and they wanted a lot more than that. So come with facts, Mr. James. Come with facts.
The other game tonight, Omar did have a little chat about Barcelona. Obviously beat 3-1 on the night. Had to ride through a lot of adversity, my friend, really, because Dortmund played a very good game, but you did see it through. You got a goal back, which was, I think, vitally important at the time of the game that it came. It took some momentum away from Dortmund for a good 20 minutes. What did you make of Barcelona tonight?
First of all, you know, credit to Dortmund. You know, they had nothing to lose. They gave it their all today. And listen, man, I'm not gonna lie. Last week when I was here, when we won 4-0, I told you that I believed that we were in the semifinals because I believed that we had a great cushion going to the second leg. And there was no way we were going to go to the second leg and screw up a 4-goal lead. That's the only reason why I had confidence about this tie. That was the only reason. Because truth be told, in my heart, I had a feeling that we would do this today. For some reason, I don't know what is wrong with my team when it comes to the Champions League, right? But we will have the most comfortable lead. And for many people who would look at it from the outside would say, yeah, it's no way they will screw this up. Nah. And then Barcelona will always say, nah, hold my beer. You guys don't know us. Like, let's be real. That first half, it was one of the most pathetic performances I've seen. The amount of disrespect I saw today from our players today, the vibes, like these guys, they came into this game thinking, yeah, the tie is over. Like, how dare you come to that stadium because you're with a 4-goal lead, right? And you start playing with no urgency, right? There was no point we were trying to even attack them. We were just like, all right, cool, just hold on to the ball, don't worry. There's no way you guys are going to score for. And then they scored the second, and that was literally when the team started to realize, shit, they're 2 goals away from actually bringing us back. And let's be clear, we won the game 3-1. The only goal we scored today came from them. Can you imagine if that goal didn't go in and then Guirassy scored his hat-trick? Then the nerves would have been all over the place. And if there's one thing Barca have proven is that we don't handle nerves very, very well. Last season, we couldn't handle our nerves. When we played Liverpool in 2019, we couldn't handle the nerves. We never handled them, and this is what happened. When they got that hat-trick, you could see they were beginning to gain confidence again. They were starting to believe again, and we're making mistakes all over the place. We could not defend. We could not hold on to the ball. We could not make a square pass. I was very disappointed today. The front attack today, I don't know why Hansi Flick decided to play the same front three that they played in the weekend. That had only one shot on target in that game, and decided to play the same front three. They were bums today. Why did Lewandowski play today? He was poor. Rafinha today, like this guy in this year 2025, I'm sorry, but he's genuinely been poor. Nobody has been noticing it because people don't watch Barcelona enough. But he's really dropped off. Yamal has been overplayed. You can see it today. He wasn't having his best game. Fermin Lopez, oh my days, man. This guy has been stinking it out the last 3 games, and Hansi Flick insists on starting him every single week. And this is the truth. Watching the game today, it made me realize that maybe I was really overreacting. No, honestly, Terry, I'm beginning to see it now. Honestly, we could potentially, most likely, play Inter Milan in the semifinals. And truth be told, I'm not confident about that tie anymore. I'm not. Because we're going to go to that first leg, and even if we win, we're going to win by like a goal. Something like that, right? And then we're going to go to the second leg and completely shit our pants in the second leg. Because they've proven that today. That was an awful performance today from the team. But I'll take it. And I'll only take it because we did the job in the first leg and we got an emphatic victory. Because that's the only way we can win ties now. That's the only way to kill it off, to basically have an impossible to lose lead. It's disgusting. But listen, congratulations, we are in our first semi-final since 2019. But truth be told, I don't see us going to the final now. Watching that today. And this is the thing, Terry. Nobody can tell me I'm overreacting because I have been seeing these performances a lot recently, right? It's just that the problem is this, and this is one thing people have not mentioned about Barcelona this season, Terry. We've been lucky with the teams we played this season in the Champions League. We haven't really had an actual big test like a Liverpool in the Champions League or like a Inter Milan who we could potentially play in the semi-final. We have not been tested. Everything we played this season on paper, we've actually had a chance of beating, or we've been favorites to beat. You understand what I'm saying? Now in the semi-finals, if we play Inter, that's when we're finally going to play a team that could actually beat us. Let's see what they do then.
Look, it's certainly interesting because I do agree with your notion of being tested. If I think about the 2 times I've seen my club in my lifetime lift this trophy, both in our group stages and the knockout rounds, we've had some really hard games, and I think it builds up a strength throughout the course of the tournament, if that makes sense. When you get tested earlier on, Inter Milan are not through, and they're only what was the result in their game? The other game was 2-1, so they've got an advantage. The one thing I would say is I don't see you beating home or away Inter Milan 4-0, and that's where I think you're Inter Milan.
Absolutely not.
That's where Inter Milan over 2 legs are going to be very, very difficult if they're able to get past Bayern Munich. If you play Bayern Munich, I think you'll be okay because they're not particularly strong at the back and you guys will tear through them. It's why I think Arsenal and Inter Milan are 2 really interesting teams left in the tournament. We'll see what happens with Arsenal tomorrow, whether they get through. They have, if they're the 2 other semi-finalists, they have been the 2 teams in the Champions League this year, especially if Arsenal get through tomorrow relatively unscathed. I think that will be a massive feather in the cap. But so far, they've been the 2 teams that have been the hardest to break down, that have conceded the least amount of goals, but also, especially, I'm not actually sure how many goals Inter have scored, but Arsenal are one of the highest goal scorers as well. So I do think the semi-finals will both have that same sort of dichotomy to them of, wow, there's a really good attacking team that can be got at. There's a good attacking team that's been very defensively sound. I think both semi-finals have that flair. Equally, you could have 2 finals with 2 teams that just attack, and you could have 2 finals with quite tactical teams. And yeah, I think the semi-finals and final, I think we're set for some absolute belters. But we've got to see who the other 2 are first. We've got to see the other 2 are. We can't get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Because here's the thing. I'm not going to sit here and completely underestimate Bayern. Because I even said it to some of my Bayern mates. Right, I was like, listen, it's a 2-1 lead. Anything can happen in the second leg. There's no away goals. You understand what I'm saying? Right? All you guys need is a goal, and then the tie is back. You understand what I'm saying? So, but I'm not going to lie to you. Out of the 2, I would rather play Bayern. Because with Inter, I feel like Inter this season in the Champions League, out of all the teams in the Champions League, they are our kryptonite. They are literally the team that are our biggest kryptonite in the Champions League. Right? Because when they are defensively compact, they're going to make it very, very hard for us, right? And even if we win that first leg, it's not going to, like you mentioned, it's not going to be it's not going to be, we will be lucky to leave there with a 2-goal lead, honestly.
I hear where you're coming from, bro. I do. A question for the panel. Who do you think PSG want to see go through tomorrow? Who do PSG want in the semis? Real Madrid or Arsenal?
Real Madrid.
Arsenal, of course.
Okay,
Arsenal.
KJ, why?
Because the momentum that Madrid have to do tomorrow to get them like to go through, that would be insane momentum. In order for Madrid to go through tomorrow, they need to win 4-0 or 4-1, then go to penalties. That momentum alone is gonna be mad to handle in the semi-final. But Arsenal are 99.999% through. So and they've played Arsenal as well earlier on the season. With Arsenal, it's more like against a defensive approach. With Real Madrid, it comes a different narrative, with Real Madrid. Because in order for Madrid to go through tomorrow, they have to do an impossible remontada. So they wouldn't want to face a team like that.
But we're all banking on this Real Madrid amazing judge kind of comeback. And listen, I know they're I know they can do it. I'm not going to say they can't because it's flipping Madrid.
Mm.
But if you just look at the teams and how they play, you know how long it's been since Arsenal even conceded 3 goals? It's been
KJ,
it's been 79 games, man. And
KJ.
their defense, is so solid the way that they play. Their midfield is made to make sure they don't concede loads of goals. So if I'm PSG and I'm looking at these two teams, heritage and momentum and remontada, all that crap, But if I look at those two teams and really analyze them for really what they are, don't you think that as an attacker, you'd rather go up against a crocked Alaba, a flipping old man Rudiger, a young guy in Asensio? You know what I'm saying? They're right back. You don't know who it's going to be because everyone's injured or rotating or doing whatever. You'd rather face that than you would a Arsenal team with the defense, which is solid and is not conceding more.
But I'm not talking about Judge. KJ, one second, Omar. I'm not talking about Judge. Tomorrow, in order for Madrid to go through, what do they have to do? They have to do the impossible, essentially.
Yes.
So PSG would not want to face a Madrid team that just did the impossible. They wouldn't.
Okay, so hang on, guys, it's a great debate. Let me ask this question, because I think I get where you're both coming from. So, what we are saying here, what you're saying, Husam, is that PSG would be more fearful of a Real Madrid winning 3-0,
4-0.
Winning 3-0 and going through on penalties, than if Arsenal tomorrow beat them 2-0 at the Bernabeu, 5-0 on aggregate, didn't concede a goal. Which of those two scenarios would be scarier to PSG?
The Madrid scenario, because the momentum is going to be too much. If Madrid somehow come back from this deficit, it's the momentum that pulls them through that fixture is going to be next level. You know, that's the thing. So that's I hear where KJ is coming from, but I'm just looking at it in a different way. Because in order for you have 2 options in your question, choice A, choice B. In order for choice B to happen, Madrid need to do the impossible. That's the thing.
And also, can I just say this also, KJ? You got to also remember, those 79 games where you talked about the defense being good, it was when they had both Gabriel and Saliba in the back. And Gabriel arguably was the best centre-back that they had, right? So I feel like, I get it, KVO and Saliba had a great game in the first leg. And listen, obviously, I want to see Arsenal go through biasly, but truth be told, if we're going to be real, the thing with Madrid is, in Europe, you just can't underestimate them. That's why everyone is looking at tomorrow's game and saying, well, listen, it sounds like an impossible, it sounds like an impossible task, but you wouldn't be surprised if it's done at the end of the season.
No, of course I will be surprised. Terry called it the biggest bottle job ever.
Yeah, there is an overestimation, I think, on this.
If Madrid win 4-0, you said it's a massive bottle job. You said it.
Yeah, from Arsenal's point of view, But I think there's the opposite going on. I think there's an overestimation on this comeback. Yes, there is, because we can't go through an entire section about talking about Madrid and Arsenal without but this comeback and I've just got this feeling, bro. I get it, but let's actually put it down there. If this was not Arsenal, I wanted to say it. If this was not Arsenal, and if this was the other team that people actually rated, they wouldn't be saying this amazing Real Madrid comeback. No,
KJ, it's actually the opposite. I think it's because it's Real Madrid that Arsenal is playing that people think that the comeback could happen. Because Real Madrid, let's be real, especially the last 2 years. No. Hold on. Let me land. At the end of the day, the thing with Madrid is sometimes Madrid, if you've seen it even in Europe when they've won Champions League, they've not necessarily been the best teams. They've always done this thing where when you just think it cannot be done, they just decide to just do the impossible. Think about. And at the end of the day, because I want you guys to remember, we've seen this before. We saw this recently with City. We saw when they played PSG in the past, where their backs was against the wall, and everyone was really.
People in those games, they were not saying, but Real Madrid can make a comeback. It was, Man City got this. Chelsea got this. PSG got this. This is what I'm saying. We were saying that before. Everyone was not sitting there saying, you know what, Real Madrid is so good at comebacks in the Champions League. You got to be careful. They were saying the tie's done. But because now suddenly because it's Arsenal, it's oh, this magic comeback.
Yeah, there is truth to that, because if this was Liverpool 3-0 up in the first leg, people would not be talking about the comeback in the same way. If it was City, if it was Barcelona, if it was Inter Milan, if it was maybe Bayern Munich this season because they've been a bit weak at the back. I think KJ's onto a point here. And I understand why some people think Arsenal can collapse, because there are people that think they're cereal bottle jobs. There are people that don't think that the squad, the players, the manager have a strong enough underbelly, which is also why I think the question I asked was meant to provoke conversation. It's what I do. I understand where you're coming from, Husam. If Real Madrid turn up tomorrow, forget Arsenal bottling it, because there is a imagine they blow them away. They stop every Arsenal attack. They outclass them. There's a fundamental difference between that and Arsenal just not turning up, right? We've all seen Arsenal play really well, but there's just three screamers, 2 brilliant goals. They blow them away. I get why that would worry PSG. At the same time, if Arsenal, a team that everybody thinks are bottle jobs, thinks don't have an underbelly, if they go to the Bernabeu and get a very good performance on a 1-1 draw, a very good performance and nick a win, a very good performance and look solid, there is no doubt, and I don't think football players fear other clubs like fans worry about other people's clubs. That will send a message, because the same team that everybody's saying, but it's Real Madrid, we know they're special. If you're a team that completely stops them, that gives you an extra aura. I think what we're also forgetting, and by the way, I don't think PSG are going to be scared of anybody, by the way.
Yeah.
Arsenal have got a slight psychological advantage over PSG this season. They have beat them and beat them well already. And I always think that can play in the minds of a team over 2 legs. So I personally think right now, I actually think it's a hard one. I just think narrowly they'd prefer Real Madrid. Just narrowly. Because Real Madrid can be got at, and their attack does better when it's against open defenses. So
and also what's important about this also, Terry, is that when you look at this, I'll be honest, when it comes to this comeback, I'm not saying at the end of the day they're gonna Real Madrid are completely gonna negate Arsenal, because defensively Real Madrid have been poor. And I think that, and at the end of the day, I'll be honest, right? I've told people, I said, listen, at the end of the day, can the comeback happen? Sure. But I feel like, Real Madrid, if they go too over, committed forward, right, they could end up screwing up in the back and then letting Arsenal get in and score, right? And this is the important thing we need to remember, because now there's no such thing as away goals and all of these stuff, right? Teams can be more open now as far as going forward. You understand what I'm saying?
Like what today with Aston Villa.
That's what I'm saying. So let's say my Arsenal get a goal, right? Now, let's say the game is like 3-0 or like 3-1 or something like that, right? There's still a chance Real Madrid will still try to go forward, because they know whatever happens, if we get a fourth, we'll take this to extra time. You understand what I'm saying?
No,
right?
I agree.
Big,
I agree. The worst thing they can do, Real Madrid, is I think. Look, I say the worst thing they can do. If they go all out attack from the opening minute and score 2 very early goals, it was the right thing.
Yeah, that would be worst case scenario for Arsenal. You know what they don't want to do, Terry? They don't want. If I'm Arsenal, bro, do not concede before the first 10 minutes. If you concede, then
I agree. Arsenal have got to keep a clean sheet. I think they've got to keep a clean. If they get past, if they can maintain their 3-0 lead up to half time, I think 100% at that point they'll be through. But equally, this is why it's such an intriguing game, because there's so many permutations. If Real Madrid do go all out attack in the first 20 minutes and Arsenal catch them on the counter, yes, you could argue with one, because the away goals don't count anymore. With 1 goal, well, we still need 4 to go to penalties. But it's that feeling, that uphill task. Then the real, even more jeopardy comes in. We can make 0, and this gets into every football player's head, I think, in these moments. We can't make any more mistakes. And as soon as you start thinking about not making mistakes,
you make mistakes.
You make mistakes. And I think that's the element that's going to be so intriguing, because I think a lot of people saying the tie is done, and I understand why it's 3-0. But we have seen so many times we haven't seen loads of the games flip the other way. There hasn't been a lot of them in the history. But an early goal for Madrid, and the nerves come in, the anxiety. We're all in the group chats, fans in the crowd are making noise. And look, I'm there for it. It's going to be an amazing game no matter what. Everyone's going to have a different view and opinion. And by this time tomorrow night, we'll be able to talk about who the semi-finalists are, who we think that the new favourite or the standing favourite will be. And it's going to be an interesting night indeed. It really, really is. This here says Shithousery White is back. Calafiori is coming back. Arsenal, based on Arsenal's win 2-0 at Real Madrid, that's momentum. That is momentum as well. Yeah, that's what I say. I think it isn't just. I don't think it's about who goes through directly. I do think what Husam said is right, but it does work the other way. I think it's about how the team goes through. For instance, also if Arsenal are hanging on for dear life, there'll be a lot less anxiety from PSG, where they're like, well, we know they can be really got at. But if they can stop Real Madrid again at the Bernabeu, there's no, just like you just said a moment, Omar, about going up against Inter Milan, there's no way if Arsenal can show they do that the other 4 teams left in the tournament are not going to be, it's going to be hard. And I think that's what Arsenal can send a massive message if they're able to do that tomorrow. KJ,
oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. I think that, listen, I've always said this. If teams that usually knock out Real Madrid most of the time, 9 times out of 10, usually win the Champions League.
True. Very true.
That's the thing, because there's something about going to playing Real Madrid in the Champions League and actually beating them and knocking them out. It's actually not as easy as many people think it is. You understand what I'm saying? So
I agree. KJ is spot on. People hate for Arsenal with blinding logic. They banked on them getting smacked in the first leg instead of admitting they were wrong. They are coping on the remontada. It's not happening. They are too good defensively, is what Jordan says here. Andre here says, how about them playing the Europa League anthem at the yeah? The players are like this.
Wait, what? They play the Europa League. They play the Europa League. Come on, tell me.
Yeah.
Wow.
I beg on Thursday night at Old Trafford, someone plays the Champions League for a laugh.
Oh.
It'd be funny, man. This here from Sam Dan, who says, I think PSG would prefer exactly what I, as an Arsenal fan, wanted today. I wanted them to go through after being battered and losing some momentum. It's a great point. Yeah, Arsenal going through, but maybe after taking a little bit of a beating and scraping through. Yeah, maybe PSG do want that. Because again, I do think that what I would say about the semi-final compared to a final for PSG is Liverpool should have put 2 or 3 goals past them at Anfield, but missed their chances and Donnarumma saved. That's 2 away games on the bounce where they have looked a little suspect when teams have put
And you know what, Terry? It's funny that you mentioned that, because a lot of people have been giving all the credit to PSG, rightfully so, because they've been doing well going forward. But I've been telling people that if you watch the PSG when they go defensive, they rely so much on Donnarumma. And Donnarumma is actually the one that built them out. Defensively, they're not actually as amazing as many people think they are. It's just that at the end of the day, they can be got at. And even today, Villa proved it, because Villa scored 3 today. Many people didn't expect Villa to score 3 today.
On a quick one, just a quick one as well. On the whole, who would they prefer to like play Arsenal or Real Madrid? In favor of, they would rather play Arsenal, and why they wouldn't want to play Real Madrid. With their defense, what would you rather face? Would you rather face Mbappe, Vinny, Rodrigo? Or would you rather face Martinelli, Saka, and whoever plays up front on the day for Arsenal? That goes in favor. It goes in favor.
It's fair. I think as well. This is the thing. I don't think it's about not fearing one and not having any fear for another. It's they both come with pros and cons. There's no doubt. But again, that's very hard to talk about online because people are fucking polarized as fuck in this world. Kivior played 19 of those 79 games. We haven't lost they haven't lost a game that Kivior's played in that run as well, but different kettle of fish in terms of stadium and attack tomorrow night. We're back tomorrow, people. Straight facts in the afternoon with my brother down there, Husam. Of course, the match reactions in the evening as well. Show with myself and Callum from Coppish in the morning also. So make sure you're tuning in for that when it drops around 10:30. This is going to redirect you to, where are we redirecting to? MHF. We're going live on MHF now. So get across there and support my brothers Mo and Husam. But until next time, people, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again very, very soon. Peace.